Welcome to Rich Conversations. I'm back from New York this week. I love New York. There's so much culture and history and architecture, and the energy is incredible. I love New York. Someone listening, you should put like "I love New York" on like T-shirts and mugs and stickers. I think a lot of people would buy them. I think it'd be popular. So there's a business idea for one of you out there. Make $1 million. Today we'll be chatting with Katrina Certeza. So this last weekend, Ken and I went to the Chicago Art Book Fair in the Chicago Athletic Association. And I got there early because that's one of my favorite spots in the city. I just grab some coffee and just hang out in the lobby. It's got these really cool like old vibes and fireplaces, and it's super cozy, especially on like a cold fall day. And the woman next to me, we started just having a conversation. And I showed her some of the stuff I was working on, and we were just having this discussion about like life and art, and it was really fun. So I was like, "Hey, you should come on the podcast." So we met up at Spinning Jays in Humboldt Park, and we just had a chat. It was really fun. So here it is. Take a listen. All right, so we're here with Katrina. How long have you lived in Chicago?
So my family moved to the U.S. when I was 15, and that was back in 2003. So my family moved to the suburbs of Chicago, and after that I went to UIC, and then I didn't live in the city at that time. And it wasn't until 2013 that I moved to the city. So
Okay.
I've lived here for about 5 years, but it feels longer.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's cool. So what neighborhood are you in?
I live in Humboldt Park right now.
How would you describe Humboldt Park?
I would say that it's predominantly a Hispanic neighborhood. It's a very vibrant neighborhood. I think what really makes Humboldt Park is really like a lot of different characters and like the history behind the layers of history, not just the Puerto Rican people that live there, but just like the architecture, the historical architecture, and like just different people, characters in the street, and like in Division Street. I've lived in Humboldt Park for about since 2015. I used to live in a DIY venue. It was like a Jehovah's Witness church. So it was
Really?
like a DIY space.
What was that like?
It was just like living with a bunch of musicians and
Okay.
artists, and there was like a show every week, and then the
Did
venue.
you ever participate in the shows?
No, not really. I mean, I was just like helping set up the stuff, and
Okay.
I lived there, so. And the venue or the place where I lived in shut down, and then now it's a condo.
Okay.
Yeah,
go
so it's
figure.
non-existent anymore.
Wow. So if you have an open Saturday, how would you choose to spend it?
I usually like biking around. I always try to go to the park and just be in nature, spend time with friends. But usually I like just doing something really spontaneous, trying something I've never tried before, whether it's like something a place that I've always been curious about, or something I've read, or like something going on in the city, because the city, there's so many things going on all the time.
Before we met up, you were saying that you rode your bike here. We're at Spinning Jays Bakery, right?
Yes.
And it's like rainy outside, so you ride your bike
Yes.
quite a bit.
That's my only mode of transportation, and I substitute teach, so I go to all the schools just riding my bike. And
Really?
yes,
Wow.
I usually just work around the neighborhood anyway, so it's just like probably a 10-minute bike ride for me all the time, like 10 to 15-minute commute
Okay.
using my bike.
So we have like winter coming up. What kind of spontaneous things would you be doing in the winter?
The same things I would be doing in the summertime. I mean, I still go to the park And I still do pretty much everything I do in the summertime. I still ride my bike, and everything I do in the summer I try to do in the wintertime. So I think there's like always events with like, like my friend who's an artist was like showing in the gallery the other day. So I just like went to like the space that his like art was showing. So that was not something I planned. I was just knew he was just like showing.
So you just went there to support your friend and everything?
Yeah. A lot of my friends are like artists. So that's like I used to go to like art shows more like regularly, but nowadays I don't really like go to galleries anymore as much
Why is
as
that?
I used to. I used to be more excited about meeting other artists.
Okay.
And then I somehow like I don't know.
Wait, why not anymore?
Huh?
Why'd you lose that excitement?
I think when I moved to the city, I wanted to meet people. I was just
Okay.
like wanted to know other people who were artists, and just I was just interested in meeting people, and I was always more interested in artistic types rather than just because as an artist myself, I wanted to kind of build a network of people I knew that would inspire me, or at least like have friends that just understood what it was to be like an artist living in the city.
Yeah. When you think of Chicago, what colors do you imagine first?
The funny thing is like the thing with Chicago is it likes to cover the graffiti with this brown shade of disgusting brown shade. Do you see that everywhere?
Where's it at? So like
It's like
they cover graffiti in
yes, in like
okay.
a shade of like brown, and the most hideous shade of brown. Yes, it's like a paper bag kind of brown. No, it's like this just like it's like a chocolate ice cream kind of brown, where it's just like And I was like, why would you cover up why are they hiding all these graffiti? Why is like if you go in like Europe or like Berlin or France or like other cities, they don't try to hide that kind of thing. I mean, it's just part of the character of the city
Yeah.
to have graffiti, and maybe they probably associate those with gangs and like, but even then, like, it's such a hideous color to pick, that kind of brown. I would rather have the walls covered in like scrolls of like letterings of graffiti rather than that hideous color of brown. And I love street art, and I just don't understand why would they cover graffiti, except for the fact that Chicago is really, the ties of graffiti to gang culture.
That's a good answer. What's your proudest moment as a Chicagoan?
Maybe this moment of talking to you about Chicago.
Nice. There's gotta be something more than just me talking about Chicago though.
So I would say that not now that I look back at it, being part of the having lived in a DIY space, and like it was so ephemeral, and like at that time I kind of took it for granted. But looking back now that church has been like razed down, and there's like a condo right there, just like being part of that, like the underground music and art space, and having met so many people there, it's like an amazing experience that it's just like constantly meeting so many people.
Do you ever look at that condo now and kind of think about the building that used to be there?
Well, the nature of living in the city will always be change. So I understand that, even though we don't look at it like, just the word gentrification connotes this like, change, ever changing. But, the city is always in a flux state of being changed. And sadly, it's, everything's becoming more expensive. And the locals are being displaced, but that's the beauty of it too, is the ephemeral like beauty of things that exist, maybe 5 years later don't exist anymore. So, like this is Chicago now is not going to be the same as
It's not the same.
Chicago.
Like this moment
Yes.
is unique
Yes,
in
exactly.
that
Yes.
there's not gonna be another.
Yeah, we don't
Same
know.
moment.
We can't predict what is like who's gonna last or not. We don't. Who's to say? What's gonna last or not.
If someone were to visit you from out of town, what restaurant would you take them to?
I will probably like cook for them.
Cook for them?
Yes, I will cook for them.
What are you gonna cook?
I'll probably cook depending on my mood and like what the season is and just like who the person is. But
So what-
probably Filipino food or
Okay.
just because I love cooking, but I don't do it enough. I was thinking a lot about like places to where to bring them, like maybe Chinatown or Argyle. Which is,
Okay.
like, have you ever been to Argyle?
Yeah, Asia and Argyle.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
sure.
mean that I love that area. Like getting fall there in the wintertime, like just because it's like so close to the lake and just walking around the whole experience of not just going to the restaurant, but the neighborhood itself of like just really interesting shops in just the neighborhood.
Yeah. Where do you grocery shop if you're gonna cook for somebody?
I just walk to the really like hole in the wall Mexican store
Yeah.
by where I live all the time, and that's where I buy most of the stuff that I get. I never really go to like any kind of chain, and I like to support the store by my house, even though it's so like. I guess they don't have everything, but what's the beauty of it is that they don't have everything. It just makes like my grocery shopping easier. I know
Yeah,
I
I
always
agree with
get the
that.
same things all the time, and
Right.
they have this like items that I like. I like buying plantains. Like you can't get plantains all like. I
No,
like
you can't.
buying like if you want okra or want like certain types of things that you can get in a Mexican store. And my cooking is really influenced by a lot of like the big Mexican food or Hispanic food, just because that is like the food in like Chicago, like a lot of like Mexican inspired food that I cook all the time.
Yeah, totally. What's your hidden gem in the city?
I was just there the other day. It's a camera store that it's like more than 100 years old, I guess.
Whoa.
Central Camera.
Where's that at?
I'm not sure if it's more than 100 years old, but it's like this like they have all these old cameras. It's just like been there forever, and they like develop film, and they have just I love walking in there because it's like kind of a time capsule, and like I love photography, so just going in there and like seeing all these vintage cameras and like cameras I can never afford or just like
So where's that at?
That's it's close to the Art Institute. It's by, I think, not exactly sure.
Is it off Wabash?
Yes, I think so. Yes, Central Camera.
Has that big sign, right? Outside
Yes.
it?
It's like the retro sign.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just like, for me as a photographer, I just love going there. I mean, even if I'm not buying anything, just like talking to people that work there, or just like just being in that space, to me it's like
Is it a
cool.
big space or?
No, it's a
Okay.
very like old-timey space where it's like this narrow passageway, like and both that has like you're just enveloped by so many cameras and like
Wow.
it's just like so steeped in a lot of history. There's even a photo of like Vivian Mayer. I don't know if you know who Vivian Mayer
I don't
is.
think so. Who's she?
She's like, in her lifetime, she was not really known as a photographer, but somebody found all her undeveloped film rolls, and now her photos are being shown in galleries. And she used to be a nanny in her lifetime, and nobody knew she was taking photos. So she would go there, and I guess she would go to Central Camera to get her film developed.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah,
What sound do you most affiliate with Chicago?
the blues.
Interesting.
It's a pretty obvious answer, but it's the blues. Go everywhere else in the world, and like I feel like I was in London, and there was like I went to a blues bar, and that immediately took me back to being in Chicago.
Really?
Yes, just because that sound is definitely like very much Chicago, like the eclectic yes of that blues influence, and a lot of there's a lot of music genres that like came from Chicago too, not just blues, but I think that one is like the thing that stands out to me in terms of what I associate with Chicago.
What music has influenced you the most during your time in the city?
I lived with like a classical pianist. I dated this classical pianist, dude. We had this like baby grand piano in our living room, in our tiny living room. So I would say like classical music definitely like kind of inspired me or just influenced me. And also like he was also in a psychedelic band. So psychedelic rock. I guess there's so many like I've been like friends with so many musicians. So it's the music of my friends basically. My friends who make music or people I've lived with who play music. It's their music influences me, or at least influenced my life. They were the soundtrack to my life.
Yeah,
and I
right?
lived in the city. Like imagine living with a musician.
If you were given secret information that Chicago would be destroyed in 1 week, what's one quality you would choose to keep to rebuild the city?
I don't know if you know anything about Chicago, the way it's planned by Daniel Burnham. So Daniel Burnham's plan would be so it kept like...
Elaborate on that, because some people might not know about it.
I think it's like he built the idea of the grid, the way like where everything's like laid out in a convenient manner. And also, I don't know if you know that like Chicago Park's motto is like Urbs in Ordo. Have you ever heard that? Like
what is it?
Urbs, like
Orbs
city, Urbs in Horto, meaning city in a garden.
Ah.
That's why there's all these like parks, little parks in Chicago, because the planners wanted to have all these parks so that the city of Chicago would have all these kind of garden, or not garden, but kind of green space in the city, so that it feels the nature. We're still in nature even though we live in a city.
Yeah, it's pretty unique compared to other cities too.
Well, it's because it was planned to have all these.
Intentional, yeah.
Yes, so I read about that and how there's all the reason why there's all these parks, and because they planned it to have all these like tiny spaces, or even Humboldt Park was part of that. And there's Douglas Park, there's other parks in the city, Lincoln Park, and all these parks, and they somehow kind of become this, different parts of the city have this parks. You might see one of those big signs in the boulevards, and I read it, and it's in there. It says in there, and you look it up too, like
when you're walking down like Humboldt Park Boulevard, there's
it is.
plaque.
They would like say, why is it like the boulevards are this way, and like I never like bothered to read it, but one day I read it, and I thought it was really interesting because it was really fascinating to me that the way they've laid out the city that way. And because one of the things I love about living in Humboldt Park is just being beside the park and how big the park is, and I could just go there every day, and it never really gets old somehow.
What's one small thing you would do to improve your neighborhood or the city as a whole?
I think I'm already doing it. I'm already part of the public school system, so I'm already, I guess, I feel like that's my contribution of living in the city, is like working in public service, and I've been working for the public school since I moved here, so it's a long time of, working with the kids, I feel like I also add something to the city because I know a lot of the students also don't normally see somebody like me, like an Asian person. In a way, it's good to make the city more diverse
I like
by
that.
being, being a person that they don't normally see. Chicago is not necessarily like a predominantly. I guess when you think of minorities in Chicago, Asians are not the first thing that come to mind.
Yeah. Right.
Not like the way if you go to San Francisco, there's a lot of more Asians there, or LA, I guess.
Yeah.
I still get a lot of like racial comments on my daily, day-to-day basis of being in the city. I feel like there needs to be more diversity in terms of people being exposed to people who are different from them.
Yeah.
Makes them realize that there are different kinds of people and there's
And it's healthy, right?
yes, it's
for
definitely
people to-
diversity
yeah.
is good because it introduces the idea that there's different types of perspective, there's different ideas, and people come from everywhere, not just not just like Hispanic or blacks, but there's other minorities out there too.
Yeah. I like that. I really like that answer. When people learn you're from Chicago, how do they respond and what's your reaction?
People have this misconception that Chicago is a city steeped with so much violence, but the media makes it seem like that. But to live in a neighborhood is apparently, kind of like the start of the West Side. And I've been to the West Side of Chicago a lot, and I feel like the media has portrayed Chicago a certain way, that the city is like so much gang violence and shootings, but it paints this bleak picture, and it perpetuates segregation and fear, and perpetuates this idea that you shouldn't go to certain areas and it's dangerous in there. And I've never really had anything bad happen to me in any of the neighborhoods that are supposedly dangerous. And I think that there's such a misconception of or misrepresentation of the city in terms of how the media is like showing how much like violence there is. Even the idea of certain neighborhoods being more dangerous because it just creates this like it perpetuates the already existing segregation.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the biggest problems in the city is like how segregated the city is. I feel like there could be more initiatives to desegregate the city, but
To bring different communities together, maybe?
Yes, to even just changing the idea that certain neighborhoods are dangerous.
Yeah. When you feel overwhelmed or need a mental escape, but you can't leave the city, where do you go to clear your mind?
I usually just go to the park. Just go anywhere there's nature.
The park is pretty big for you, isn't
Yes.
it? Yeah.
Yes, because have you ever gone to Humboldt Park?
I can't
Well,
say that
yes.
I've ever like walked Humboldt Park. I've
Let
driven
me tell
past
you
it,
something.
but that's it.
So I've considered moving to Colorado. I've considered moving to New York. I've considered moving to LA. Considered moving to San Francisco. But I was like, I'm going to miss living in Humboldt Park because I'm not going to live by a big park.
Wow. That's really interesting.
Like, where am I going to live that is just like 1 minute away from a big park? That's like really such a like a really nice place for me to just like go for a walk or just have this green space. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's like Central Park and there's Prospect Park in New York, and there's also if you go to San Francisco, there's all these like nature in there, Golden Gate Park or Dolores Park. But to actually live beside the park and to actually just being in nature for me is very important because it's a very grounding experience, especially if you live in the city. There's like so much concrete and so much like just like even Chicago, like very bleak colors, like
Like today was so gray.
Yes.
Everywhere outside is just like gray.
but that's my first experience of actually seeing Chicago was like a very gloomy day. So I kind of associate that too with the mood of the city. Like,
Okay.
I didn't like Chicago the first time I saw it because it was like, oh, it was really gloomy and very kind of noir, very just. But there's like a romanticism with that kind of thing too, you know. It's like kind of you appreciate the summer more because of the gloomy days. Every day that it's sunny or like you could see the sun, I think that people like really rage.
Yeah.
You would see that they rage and they appreciate a sunny day because it's not always a sunny day in Chicago.
So did you follow the? You're in Humboldt Park, and what was it this summer? There was like a gator in the park or something like that.
Yes.
What? So can you elaborate on that? Did you
Um,
follow it closely because you were living over there?
I read about how they caught the gator. As well, they had to block off the whole park because the reason why they couldn't catch the gator was that there's too many people. So, so what they did was they had to barricade the whole park,
Okay.
and then they had to bring in some specialists, like some
So there was this gate. How did the gator get there in the first place?
maybe somebody like from there, like somebody like
And then someone saw a gator, and what was it? What's the name of it? Chance the.
Chance the Snapper. Yes.
So did you go to the park and
Yeah.
look out for it?
Me and my friend actually were like, maybe we're gonna be able to catch the gator. Maybe we're gonna be the ones to catch it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's something you're curious about recently?
Because I'm just curious about everything, though. I mean, I'm always curious about like the person sitting next to me. You know, just like I always like starting conversations with strangers, and so it's not just recent, but I'm just curious about people in general.
Okay.
So whoever is next to me,
I know this firsthand. Yeah.
yeah, I'm like curious about like the idea that like a conversation, where a conversation can take you with a stranger.
Yeah, I dig that.
It's always different though. It's always different. Sometimes it goes nowhere, and sometimes it's like, you know, I get to be in a podcast.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's cool. Within the past 5 years of living here, what personal realization has improved your outlook on life the most?
Again, it's building off what I said. It's just like, you know, taking some risk and just changing up, just even like just taking a little risk, like talking to the person next to you or changing your route to work, or just like just changing something up, even so small, could change the quality of your day somehow.
Yeah.
Just-
Yeah, I dig that.
Just like going to a different store that you've never been to, or trying something different. And it doesn't have to be this like grand gesture. It just like trying something you've never done before, or never like eaten before, or like
Do you think
just being curious around
Yeah.
the world around you makes such a huge difference, and like never really getting apathy getting away, because it's so easy to be like, okay, like I don't want to do anything, or I just like, why do I need to talk to somebody, blah blah, like, oh, they're just probably too busy. But just being open, just always being open to people, and that just opens up so much doors of learning and maybe opportunities.
Do you think when people think about risk, they think that it's in this large, grand scale and not the smaller things like you just mentioned, of just doing something a little different out of your routine, out of your comfort zone?
I think it's kind of a muscle, though, that, you know,
Yeah.
the more you do it, it's just like you don't even think about it anymore, that you do it all the time. It's not even risk-taking to you anymore. It's really like just
Yeah.
out of habit. But
That's fascinating. That's a great answer. I love that.
just being out of your comfort zone, and that's different from every single person, because what might be like comfortable for you like is different. That might be like something so foreign to somebody else. So
Yeah. What's something you dream of accomplishing within the next 5 years?
I have an insane wanderlust, so I want to see more of the world. I have not gone back to the Philippines since my family moved to the U.S., so
that's a trip.
At some point I want to go back to the Philippines and maybe travel around Asia. So within the next 5 years, maybe hopefully the next year. and that's, more traveling.
That's awesome, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Katrina, thanks for sitting down with me. That's all the questions I have for you.
I had fun talking to you. Yeah, and it's so funny that we just you were sitting next to me, and I was just really curious about. We met in a book fair.
Yeah.
In what's the Chicago Athletic Club.
Yeah.
And I saw you were taking a photo, and you had this excitement that you were taking a photo. I was like, I gotta talk to this guy who's excited about taking a photo of this place.
What was I taking a photo of?
I don't know. You were taking a photo of the vicinity of
Okay.
the space, and you were
That's my space. I dig that space.
Yeah, and that you appreciate the beauty of the things around you.
I do.
And that's something that not everyone I thought you were a tourist or something, and that's why I was like, has he ever been here before? This is because I thought this place was cool, but I mean, it has this really historical feel, vibe.
Yeah, I love that place.
I don't know
It's one of
much
my
about
favorites.
it, but it's just kind of being your grandfather's
Yeah.
office space, or
Yeah.
something like
I
that.
I refer to it as my lair.
Or a kind of a Harry Potter vibe.
Yeah.
It's
That's
kind of a just Hogwarts.
right. I dig that vibe.
And there's a fireplace. And,
Yeah. Cool. Well, thanks again. I really appreciate it. It was fun. Thanks for listening to Rich Conversations. Have an inspiring day.